Where's Abe? I want to see Abe.
Oh, yeah, he's over. He's hanging there.
Hey, there he is.
Get on screen, friend.
There's conference room was taken, so
Who's in there?
VIP.
Who?
We got a VIP in there. Dom, the infamous Dom, is here.
So he kicked you guys out of the conference room?
Nah, that's fine.
Inside joke.
All right, guys, if you are just getting in, what's up? Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend.
Shitty rainy weekend.
Saturday was crazy, dude.
Yeah, it was monsoon.
I had to go meet a client at Golden Eagle, and the street had like a foot of water. It was bad, dude. It was bad. Can't believe next Sunday's Easter. Nuts.
April showers bring May flowers, so
Is that
good
what they
sign that
say?
things are warming up around here.
Is
Hopefully,
that what they say?
All right, let me pull this up.
I find it funny though because I'm still laughing about it. Our builder, or the builder, he said literally like 3 weeks ago, he's like, "Dad, I don't want to hear any more excuses." He goes, "Because the March showers are going to be coming in soon." Because I don't want to hear any excuse about rain. And like 3 days later, it just like rained for 10 days straight.
3 days later for 10 days. Like Abe's math.
But I was like, I don't know, tell you, Frank, it's. All right, so it's a Facebook group. All right, so you can see.
Yeah. Did text go out?
Should buy another van, you know what I mean? Honestly,
Yeah, I didn't get a text.
I don't get one either.
I'll send one right now if you want.
Yeah, if you could. Just send out the Facebook link.
Where's that? Is it somewhere?
Just the group page, I guess. Just direct them to the group page, and then obviously this will pop right up.
Okay.
Yep. What's up, everybody in Facebook land? If you can hear us, type something in so we can kind of confirm. Is there a link? Or...
NAR settlement. What's it called?
Josh Schwartz, is there a link or are you on Facebook? Yeah, we're on Facebook. Right? Where are you saying this?
Florida Future.
All right, Rob Hennessy in the house, loud and clear. And he clicked the link to integrate so I could see his name. I love it. Guys, if you didn't click that link, at some point, click it. It's a StreamYard integration with Facebook just so we can see your comments. So Josh Schwartz, he's got another page open just so I can see who's commenting that he typed in Word.
Probably have to do this for a while.
Yeah, fine.
Oh, my place is a mess here. Clean this thing up.
All right, we're just going to give it one more minute because text blast went out. So we know how it is. We've got to tell everybody at least two ways of how you can watch this.
Isn't a message desk a sign of a genius? Did anyone hear that? Or is that just me?
I've heard it.
It depends on how messy.
I have my organized chaos here. That's what I have.
Yeah, right. As long as you know where it is, that's fine. But if you're like hoarder messy, you know.
I'm getting there. I'm at that level. I'm at that border. The fine
What is
line between crazy and genius. So I just call myself a genius. I'm shutting up.
Let's get Ed on the line just to
Yeah.
confirm.
From a guy who yells, "We're paperless now." What do you got? Just a bunch of bills?
My to-do lists are not paperless. I love them. I'm Emily in that fashion.
All right, I guess. Let's see. All right, text went out. All right, guys, we will get started. What's up? Obviously, this is now meeting, I guess, number 4 in regards to the NAR settlement. We're obviously taking it very seriously, and it's just for preparation, purposes. Again, it's business as usual right now. I don't think that any client thus far has demanded that you don't cooperate with a buyer agent, and I don't think that's going to be for the future. I've talked to a number of agents already who have gone to the extent of kind of explaining what's happening, to their buyers and to their sellers, and nobody cared. Nobody cared about this ruling. It didn't affect how they did business. It didn't affect the ability to do a co-op. So again, it's just going to be communication at this point and education. Obviously, we know it's going to take a couple months for this to really go into effect. I mean, I think it's going to actually take longer. We just got word that Compass is now actually entering into the settlement. If you haven't read the settlement, we're going to go over some bits and pieces on it. I do advise that you do read it just so you're familiar with it. It's really not 108 pages, guys. What it is there's multiple lawsuits. So it's a response to each lawsuit within the entire settlement. So there's like 6 or 7 different settlements. But once you break it down, it's all the same thing. So it's really just 4 or 5 pages of things that we need to be concerned about as agents, which is really what the NAR is suggesting the DOJ as our practice changes. And again, these have to go and get approved. So some of this language may change, but as of right now, this is what we have to go by. We do believe that they've made their best efforts to make it where the DOJ, should respond and should approve it as written. But we'll see when we get there. All we can do right now is plan, and until that time comes, and hopefully, we'll be ready, and you guys will have some advantages in place, where you can kind of just get to work, and there won't be any road bumps. I know you guys are feeling like there might be some hurdles or road bumps right now, but we're telling you it's business as usual. So don't let this weigh you down, but do the research and pay attention. This is serious. This will definitely change the real estate game long term, but it's really going to take, my thought, 6 months to a year for us to realize, like, where is the market now in result to these changes? How has the market actually responded? Has the market changed? And in what ways have they changed? And, being that they've changed, how has it impacted your business? Has it impacted it at all? I have some theories and some thoughts, and we'll break into that as we go through it. But let me pull up the NAR settlement.
While Bo's doing this, add on, if you guys did not listen on Thursday to Kathy Maletti and Bill Kozlik's interpretation of what's been going on in their states, where in Pennsylvania and South Carolina, buyer agent agreements have been required for a long, long time. So they're just dipping their toes in that for the past, say, 2, 3, 4 years since they've been licensed. And they still say the bulk and the majority of deals are all paid by the seller. Commissions are paid by the seller. So I think that's just a glimpse into what could happen. Yeah, there's some wrinkles that are being added as far as what compensations can be advertised for the MLS, but just something to consider. One other thing I am going to add is that Central Jersey MLS, if you didn't notice, changed their name to All Jersey MLS. I don't know if they're trying to position themselves to be the one New Jersey MLS and try to advertise all properties, because they are making it in there that they can advertise commissions because they are broker owned and not a NAR owned MLS. So just something interesting to keep an eye on. We'll keep you in the loop as we go along there. But go ahead, Bo. I just want to throw that in.
Yeah, and that's what you call a strategy. That's somebody that's looking at the new rule and trying to take advantage of it. They are not really, I guess, held under NAR's guidelines. So they have the ability to do some unique things. And I think they're looking at it as, hey, this is a way we can increase membership, especially with people not really seeing NAR's value. And we'll see what happens with MLSs. Will they have these major requirements in order to show a property in this area? You got to be, a member, right? Because if the compensation isn't listed on their MLS, Well, what do you need the MLS for, right? You have showing time to book the appointment, and you can just go and look at the property on the website of the vendor. That's something that we're going to discuss actually right now. So practice changes. It says eliminate and prohibit any requirement by the NAR and the board members. They must make offers of compensation to buyer brokers and other buyer representatives. I mean, obviously, this is something that is first and foremost, the most important thing that we're talking about is the cooperation to other agencies. So with that, being said, if you're no longer required by the MLS to offer cooperation, you can do what you want. But guys, that's always been the case. You could always put an exclusive listing up and not cooperate. So really, in my opinion, like nothing changes. I look at it like this. A couple of people have said, oh, the buyers are going to come, direct to me. Well, what was preventing you from doing this before? You could have done an exclusive, done a really good job marketing and advertising and getting the buyers to come to you. This was a tool available to you before. Why didn't you do it before? Why aren't other agents doing it? Because at the end of the day, that doesn't really help your seller. That's the answer. I don't care how great of a realtor you are, or you may think you are. And I know a lot of people have egos and they think like, this is my area. I control this area. Nobody controls any area. Nobody controls, the buyers in the market. Whether you think you have a stranglehold on a territory or an area, that doesn't mean your buyer's in that area. Doesn't mean that buyer has a relative or somebody that they know, like, or trust that they want, to represent them as a buyer's agent. And at the end of the day, if your seller is expecting the most money, for their property and they're expecting showings and they're expecting offers, why are we going to combat, with our fellow realtors and that are representing buyers already? One of the things I said, I think, last week, even if you put a house up and it's a great deal, you're assuming that that buyer hasn't signed a buyer agency agreement with somebody. We're thinking in a new world where a buyer agency agreement is going to be required. The key there is, if it is required, if it's signed, what are your odds of putting that property on the market and getting top dollar with only people that are unrepresented and haven't signed a buyer agency agreement? You're probably going to be looking at maybe 20 to 30% of the market may not be represented when you put a listing up. So again, you're precluding the ability for your property to be shown and get a quick offer. If you're just waiting to put it back out on the market and for brand new fresh buyers to come to you directly, you're going to be waiting a little bit, and you're not going to be getting the highest offer for your client because you're missing out on 70% of the market. I mean, I don't know if anybody disagrees, with that. But at the end of the day, it's all about, your audience and how many people are seeing this property. And that's how you are able to get into these bidding wars. And if you're limiting your audience, your chances of a bidding war, your chances of a higher offer, I mean, buyers are going to leverage that against your seller. And at the end of the day, that's not what we're here for. We're here to get the highest and best offers for our clients. We are not wholesalers. Wholesalers represent their clients. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, they're not getting market value for those properties. There's a reason for that. Limited audience. That's not our role. Our role is to get our clients the highest and best price, for their properties. So let's keep that in mind. And let's understand too, that there will be maybe a couple of agents that do try to do these exclusives and they don't want to cooperate and they want you to go to your buyer and get the commission from your buyer. Your buyer could say, no, I'm not interested in that property, number one, because I don't want to pay an extra $10,000 on top of what they're asking. So right off the bat, that could eliminate that buyer. Number two, who are these agents that we're talking about that are going to do this? Are we going to be willing to now, work and cooperate with those agents? Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to if we're sharing a commission. But, guess what happens? These people are going to get a bad name for themselves. If this is something that's repetitive in this industry and they're not cooperating, with our community of real estate agents. And I'm not just talking about RE/MAX, we're talking about Keller, we're talking about EXP. If they're not willing to cooperate with the market as a whole, then who's going to want to work with them if they're making an offer on your property? I'm not going to be somebody that makes it super easy for somebody that's out in the market that's making it difficult for us to do business with them, and then just say, okay, I'll give you the whole game plan on how I can work with you on this deal. That naturally is going to happen. And if those agents ostracize themselves and they want to kind of silo themselves and be their own, I mean, I've learned over the years, we need our fellow agents in this business to sell properties for top dollar. No doubt about it. I mean, I just listed the house for $2.4 million. I've shown it a couple times to direct buyers that called in. I have an agent that's bringing in a buyer that's probably going to bring me, the top offer at this point, which is going to beat my clients. Do I care? I don't. I'm not going to tell my client to go with an offer that isn't in their best interest. So we have to keep that in mind, and know that you're not going to sell every property that you list. Get that out of your head. That's my thoughts and opinions on it. I don't know if Tom, if you share any of those, opinions.
Yeah, I mean, you're really glimpsing into the future, how things are going to be set up. And I know we've already talked with some agents that said, how do we take advantage of this? And there's going to be ways. And yeah, we could have done that all this time, like you said. But you also don't want to exclude your seller from getting top dollar. I can't stress this enough. We saw this at Foxton's. We experienced it at Foxton's. And it hurts your seller. I will tell you right now, hands down, it will hurt your seller. I've already told the story on Thursday when we were at Foxton's, all I did all day was CMAs and price reductions and then go on appointments. And the price reductions were getting stranger and stranger compared to market value, where I had to dip down below a little bit market value. And it's because we were offering 1%. And agents were saying, no, I'm sorry, I'm not showing you that house. You can call them. Some would say, all right, well, forget about it. I'll still work with you. I don't want to go. Others would call Justin. To be honest, I knew it, but there was some people that were not, and that's going to affect value. So before you go trying to exclude agents because you want to get the dual side of it, which is few and far between, guys. I've talked to so many agents and so many of you guys that say, I don't even like to be dual. I know I make more money, but it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the juggling. I'd rather have another agent on the other side. So this doesn't pertain to everyone, but I do think that we should just be careful and remember in our minds who we're working for. First, you're working for the seller, no doubt about it. If the buyer calls you, then you can get into a dual situation, but please remember that you're working for the seller immediately when you have a listing.
Anything to add, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, guys, we're still waiting on the DOJ to weigh on their comments on the NAR lawsuit, but they've already the DOJ's already given some comments on the overall lawsuit in general, and one of the things that they've made very clear is that listing brokers can still compensate. So we know that's good. We know that's going to happen. We know that scenario is going to still stay the same. We've been on a bunch of calls with top brokers throughout the country where they're doing buyer agency right now. And our state is positioned and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but our state's positioned, I think, a little bit better than most because we already have the compensation split there. It shows what the listing agent can get and what he's willing to kind of split out. Some states are going to have to change that. So, we've been talking to other RE/MAX brokers in New Jersey and throughout the country and how they think this is going to go down. And I've been saying this from the get-go, from when this lawsuit, when everything kind of happened with the NAR thing, we don't foresee many sellers not offering compensation. I think you're still going to have some weird nuances that's going to be there for sure, especially with some agents testing the waters. But at the end of the day, like Tom's saying, like Justin's saying, what's in the best interest for your client? You're going to have to tell them how this is going to expose. Now, the whole lawsuit in general was agents might have been steering based on commission compensation. Now buyers are going to be steering themselves. Oh, okay, if these 4 properties are offering compensation, I want to look at these. I can't afford this commission over here. It's going to change the dynamic. So now it's put in the buyer's hands. What do you think? What do they think was going to happen?
Yeah.
The buyers are going to want to go towards the properties that are offering compensation. The only thing that we're going to have to work around is, it's interesting that CJMLS kind of did that. It's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. But is that obviously compensation being displayed on the MLS? How third-party sites are going to jump in on this. I've been talking to Zillow. They're talking about ways of adding compensation on their site. They obviously own Showing Time. That's been a discussion on, being added to there. Maybe there's a third-party app that gets designed, but there's a lot of things that are in the mix, and I know a lot of people are working towards that. So,
right. And that's what leads us to the next page, page 28, which really goes over that. If you read it a couple times, it's kind of confusing. It seems like it contradicts itself, but it says you're agreeing not to create, facilitate, or support any non-MLS mechanism or website for such purpose of listing brokers or sellers to make offers compensation to the buyer brokers or other buyer representations, either directly or through your buyers. However, this provision is not violated by a realtor MLS providing data or data feeds to a realtor MLS participant, or third party, unless the realtor MLS knows those data or data feeds are being used directly or indirectly to establish or maintain a platform for offers of compensation from multiple brokerages. So it comes down to this, guys. As an overall feed, an MLS cannot display multiple companies' commission splits. But this doesn't preclude us as a real estate company to post those on our page. There may be some other workarounds too. Again, there's been some rumors that maybe Showing Time is going to allow this information to be displayed. That's obviously privately owned. It's not owned by an MLS. It has no affiliation to NAR. This is Showing Time is actually owned by Zillow. So always comes back to Zillow one way or another. I've talked to Motion City Media about adding a spot on their virtual tour sites that's easy to find. They said, "Oh, you could just put it into the description." I'm like, "No, we're not gonna do that. I need an actual box where people understand that there's a concession or a concession box, and I also want a co-broke box. I want both of those options." So they're working right now to see if they can build that in. The thing there is, if you have a link from the MLS to your page, which is your private page for that property, that information can actually be displayed somewhere. So now buyers can see that, and other agents can quickly link to that from the MLS. Not saying that at some point, the MLS, will, eliminate, I guess, feeds or websites or anything like that. So I wouldn't plan on, hey, that's going to be the method, but these are the things that I'm just saying. I'm like, oh, that's an easy workaround. We can just do this. We can just do that. We'll see what happens when eventually we start doing these things. Will the MLS step in and say, no, you can't do that? But again, it may take them 6 months to a year to figure out, what's happening, who's putting stuff here, where is this actually something that goes against, what's in the actual settlement? How do we see it? Again, there's a lot of things that are going to be open for interpretation, so it's going to be a lot of trial and error stuff. But we're going to look to try to make this easy for everybody, just so we can, again, do more deals, together. At the end of the day, as brokers, that's our goal. That's our job. Just business as usual again.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see sellers putting riders on their property saying how much they're co-broken out. Yeah, especially if you're in a busy area or hot neighborhood. But yeah, I mean, MLS is off the table, but it doesn't say about third-party sites and other routes. So,
yep. So on this next page, if you look at B, actually, let me just go back. We'll just kind of go over this in full. It said, unless inconsistent with state or federal law or regulation before or during the operation. So they're pretty much saying that if there's some kind of law preventing you from putting it on your personal website, then they're not going to conflict with that. They're just going to go with whatever the state law is, but New Jersey doesn't have anything against doing that. Let's see. To the extent such a realtor or participant will receive compensation from any source, the agreement must specify and conspicuously disclose the amount of rate or compensation it will receive or how this amount will be determined. So I think the key point there is, number one, is you want to have, something in place if you are doing a concession. You want something signed off there. And then you want to make sure that, if you are displaying this information, it's being displayed correctly and accurately, as far as what you're co-broking out. Like if you're willing to co-broke out 2%, you're gonna have to put that, right? You can't just say, all right, I'm gonna just I'm a 5%. The seller signed off on the 2%, but I'm not going to disclose that information until somebody asks me for it. If you are marketing it on your website, like on our Remax website, it's going to be consistent that all the listings are going to be, listing what the co-broke is, so we're not going to like finagle, we're not going to go back and, leave it off on some of them, unless I guess it's an exclusive, which obviously then you have the proper paperwork signed. Amount of compensation reflected must be objectively ascertainable and may not be open-ended. Buyer broker compensation shall be whatever amount the seller is offering to the buyer. So as a buyer agent, that means you have to make sure that your buyer agency agreement covers you and doesn't restrict your commission. So if you sign on with somebody, let's just say you're going to show them their first property, and the first property is a 2% split, and you agree, I'm going to do the buyer agency agreement for 2%. Well, what are the odds that they don't buy that house? It's pretty high. I think we all know like 98% of the first home you show that client is not going to be the one. So by putting 2% though, at this point in time, if you're signing buyer agency agreements this month, next month, you're now signing up to do the work for 2%, no matter what the seller is willing to co-broke. So if you go and write your offer and you try to get 2.5%, guess what? You might be in violation based upon how this is written. Now, can things be amended or changed? They can be, but I'm not going to mess around right now. We're just getting hit with this massive lawsuit. I mean, make sure you are filling out these buyer agency agreements, understanding what you're signing and agreeing to. The assumption that you should make is that if you agree to 2%, that's it. And it could be advantage for your buyer if you agree to 2%, right? Because if they're co-broking out 2 or 3%, then I guess the seller gets to keep it or the listing agent gets to keep it. I guess that's also open-ended on how that's going to work. I'm not going to assume that the seller would keep it. I'm going to assume that the listing agent would keep it in that instance. But I mean, I think the listing agent would have to have some kind of conversation with the seller as far as what's happening, because now you may be changing what the co-broke is. They agreed to 5%. They're splitting out 2.5%, but the buying agent has a buyer agency agreement for 2%, and now there's 3%. Well, you agreed to do 2.5%. You're going to have to explain to the seller that they're only taking 2%. Is it okay if I get the 3%, or I don't know what's going to happen?
Well, Bo, if I could just
put a minimum? No, you can't put a minimum.
Someone said that. What? Oh, so this is something I brought to the MLS's attention. It was a listing. Let me try to present this. There was a listing that was on the MLS. Let me just show you here. And right here, can you guys see the screen?
No.
Nothing, huh?
Right there.
Let's see.
You guys should be able to see it.
It's pretty hard.
So right at the bottom here, try to get into here.
Yeah, there you go. Buyer
agent commission is negotiable. Please add it to your offer if needed. And I complained about that, saying, how can you have an open-ended negotiable commission? So saying, what does it read on the listing agreement? I think if you go back to Justin's the settlement documents, it actually mentions something like this. Because what if the listing agreement just says negotiable as buyer agency commission, and then anyone that sends an offer, oh yeah, we're not paying you. No, we're not paying you. Well, maybe we'll pay you 1, maybe we'll pay you 2. So I'm glad they addressed this in the settlement. Let me stop sharing now, because you just can't have that situation where you have a buyer's agent thinking, all right, I put in a $400K offer and they're going to get me a commission. What if now we try to get it a little bit lower, or maybe we started lower and they had no commission and then they increased it afterwards? That just gets ugly, where all of a sudden the agent's not working on the buyer's best interest. They're looking out for their best interest. So I'm glad that's just an example, guys, of something I sent to the board, and they really pled the fifth on it, to be honest. So I'm glad they're going to address this. Just wanted to bring that up real quick.
Yeah, I think they're not going to want to touch a lot of things right now until everything kind of gets settled. Because I guess they don't want to be sued, right? What if they're wrong and they tell an agent something and then the agent follows it and then the agent files a lawsuit against the local board? I think everybody's super sensitive, and because nothing is clear at the moment, and because they're actually taking off the ability to cooperate. Yeah, I mean, if I'm an agent, yeah, why not try to get away with doing something like that if that's what your seller is telling you to do? I mean, we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff. Again, if you do see something that is questionable, do send it to Tom or me and Abe. Just copy us all on it. We'll look into it. We'll try to get clarity because, again, the more we can kind of bring this to the attention and make sure that this is actually the right way to do business, like that agent is probably going to get something from the MLS in regards to that. And guess what they're going to have to do? They're probably going to have to change the language or readjust or show paperwork. And then now they're under, the auspices of, let's see all your paperwork. Was all your paperwork correct? Do you want to open that box? Like, what are we doing? Why would you do something like that at this point in time? Why are you going to leave it? It's up to being negotiable when you make your offer. Silly, but you're going to see that from, I guess, probably some rookie agents that are just trying to get business, and they may try to take advantage short term of this. They may say, yeah, no, I'll take your listing at the 2% or whatever. Yeah, we'll just put it out that the buyer's agent can pay the commission. Be lazy, and they're going to do exactly what you see there, is say that it's negotiable. Well, we don't know. Is the seller actually willing to pay a co-broke, and now you're hiding it? To me, that's suspicious, because now I have to negotiate with my buyer to get a commission when your sellers. That makes no sense. And I think you're going to have a lot of people that try to like pull these little tricks, and maybe they won't disclose. But again, I think there's got to be something where you have to disclose. If I ask, you have to disclose what it is. It should not be a secret. You may not be able to list it on the MLS, but it's not because it's supposed to be hidden from us as agents. It's just they don't, they feel, guys, that we are actually looking at these commissions on the MLS, and that we're excluding these from searches or sending it to buyers because the commission's 2% versus 3%. Like, that's part of the theory. The other part of it is that the buyers never got a chance or an opportunity to negotiate on what their commission is going to be. And at the end of the day, they're actually paying for the commission. I know people think like the sellers are the ones that are paying for the commission. It's like, well, they don't have a buyer, and they're not supposed to pay the commission until the closing. So it's not coming out of their proceeds. It's coming out of what the buyer's actually making the offer, which then obviously they're financing part of the commission. If they were willing to come in and make an offer and say, just take $25,000 off. I'm not going to, deal with an agent. You can double-side it or whatever. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to represent myself. That could lower the price, right? The seller's net would be the same if they said, I'm an agent, right? Put yourself in the shoes. I'm an agent. I'm going to make an offer on a property. I'm not taking a commission. We've seen that before. What happens? They always want to reduce the price. That's the same theory. The buyers never had the chance to negotiate with a buyer's agent. The listing agents are determining what a buyer agent is going to be paid, but the buyer is actually paying that money at the end of the day, and it's being financed, within the mortgage. So it's one of those things. At this point, I understand why this lawsuit won, because the general public, is number one. They're going to be the jury on it, right? And they're going to look at it and say, yeah, no, that's right. As a buyer, I never got a chance to maybe say that I only want to pay that agent 2%. And the buyer's agents, they're saying, are out there marketing that their services are free, or the buyer doesn't have to pay for it. They are paying for it in the total price of the house. I know some people say, no, they're not, because the sellers want to do this. The seller, at the end of the day, they're looking at their net, right? Before they accept an offer, we've had sellers that come back and they try to negotiate on commission because the net doesn't match. They're trying to get to a certain net. So with us eliminating the ability for the buyer to negotiate with the buyer's agent, we have sort of fixed the price on what commission is, because the buyer is not able at any point to negotiate the commission with the seller. They can only do it through the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent has to agree. And a lot of times we've seen cases where the buyer agent doesn't agree to reduce their commission. Like, sorry, but the buyer agent doesn't have anything signed with the buyer. So think of it from the in the shoes of a buyer. Do I think this complicates things? Do I agree with this? I don't. I think it is kind of silly, because at the end of the day, I think all the numbers are going to end up being, somewhat the same. But you will see buyer's agents now agree to 2%. No doubt in my mind. They're going to say, yeah, no, fine, I'll do it for 2%. And what just happened? They're foregoing a 2.5% commission. So now, in theory, this settlement and this lawsuit is actually taking the other side of the transaction and having it be able to be negotiable, which it really wasn't. Could they negotiate? They could, but Nobody really knew that, you go back to like procurement clause too, right? What are you gonna do? Fire an agent, hire another agent, say do this for 2% instead of 2.5% because the agent that showed me they're not willing to negotiate the commission. It's never happened before. So the decoupling of the commission is exactly this. The buyer having now the right to negotiate what they're willing to pay for services. And that's where it leads us to now. This is professional. And like I said last week, this is more like a listing agreement, guys. And this is where, as Remax agents, as veterans in the business, as Remax being the top agency in Ocean and Monmouth County for deals. I mean, this is where you're going to be able to use the brand to your advantage, with buyers like never before. All right, we're going to move on to the next page. Require realtors and Realtor MLS participants and subscribers must not filter out or restrict MLS listings communicated to the customers or clients based on the existence of levels of compensation offered to the buyer, broker, or other buyer representatives assisting the buyer. So again, that's why they want this. If it's all on your page and every single thing has commission on it, great. You can email it to the buyers. If it's on the MLS, that's going to be consistent too. You can now not filter based upon commission. You can now not exclude listings based upon that. Will it still happen? We know, yes. If there's 5 listings and the buyer's agent wants to go and find out what all the commissions are, could they still restrict it? Yes, but that is not going to show up for the buyers on like a realtor data feed. So I don't think Zillow is going to be honestly showing commissions. We'll see what happens. I don't think like Realtor.com or Homes.com. I don't think they're going to show commissions. I think they would be then, open for some kind of attack or a lawsuit if they did. May they test it in, over some time? They might. But, I think just the company or the agency alone, so again, our Remax Revolution site, yeah, we can, because we're not co-branding all these other listings from all these different companies, and we're not able to sort it or hide things. We're disclosing everything. Next spot, practice changes in paragraph 58 of the settlement agreement shall not prevent offers of compensation to buyer brokers or other buyer representatives off of the multiple listing service, sellers from offering buyer concessions on a realtor MLS for closing costs. So as long as concessions are not limited to or conditioned on the retention of a payment to a cooperating broker, buyer broker, or other buyer representative. So now we're getting into specifically here concessions. It was very interesting. The president of NAR was on Saturday with Jared James, and he specifically said you're not going to want to tie a concession 100% to match what the compensation is going to be.
Right.
So, if you're thinking, hey, I'll just put a concession for 2.5%, and it's going to also match what I'm willing to cooperate out to an agent, you're not going to want to do that. That's something that I think the MLS is going to be very, they're going to be looking at this, very intensely up front. And if you are also messaging to agents that amount of the concession is actually really a commission, get ready for like a fine. I don't think that's going to fly at all. The NAR president specifically said concessions cannot match what a co-broker is going to be. So your concessions are still going to have to be concessions, right? If for some instance there's something wrong with a furnace, or an AC or something like that, and the concession is for that, that's what it's going to have to be for if you're marketing and advertising in the listing for a concession. Now, the other flip side of it is, can a buyer write an offer and request a concession for a specific amount that matches the commission? There's nothing here that says that. It's just as a listing agent, you're not going to be communicating and marketing in the description or on the MLS that a concession is going to be the same amount as what you're cooperating at. So again, you make an offer, you can write a concession. The concession can be above asking, and that can be paid for your commission, except right now, as we know, for FHA and VA. And that's why we have Josh Blair here. So I'm going to pull up a quick seller concession
The concessions, Justin, just to be clear, the concession is for allowable closing costs on prepaid items. It hasn't
It
been
can be.
included anything else. So to piggyback on what you're saying, if the closing costs are 15 grand, that's where you want the concession to be. You don't want it to be at 25 grand to include anything else, whether it be co-brokering commissions or anything else.
Yeah, guys, and as you can see, I think what you're going to want to do early on with your clients, so we've talked about obviously doing consultations, and we're going to do some further things with consultations. But part of that should be going over the different loan types. I think you're still going to be doing buyer consultations with buyers that are not pre-approved. So you're going to want to have some discussion with them as far as how much money do you have, when are you looking to close, and then you're going to pull out this information and obviously know that this chart is going to show you one way or another. If this buyer is intending on doing a VA deal, you're now going to have to go into detail on what could happen, if there's a non-cooperating agent on a property that they want to buy. As of right now, obviously we know, that puts you in a tricky situation. The only way I believe you could do it is if you figure out a way to inflate your price, and if you're going over asking, and then you're asking the agent, hey, I know you're not cooperating, but can you ask the seller to do a cooperating commission on this? Because it technically can't be a concession. They don't want the concession to go back to the buyer, who now has to pay a buyer's agent. So it's going to have to be a commission. And there's nothing saying that if a listing agent lists and markets a property, and it doesn't have a buyer agency commission, and they're saying you're just going to have to figure that out with your buyer. There's nothing precluding you from making an offer and asking for a commission. That's all still negotiable. So that's going to be the workaround right now for FHA and VA. You're going to write your offer. You're going to expect that you might have to go over asking price or meet asking price, and then you're going to ask for your cooperative commission as part of the deal, and then they're going to have to figure out their net based upon that number. And listing agents are going to be explaining this as well. As a listing agent, when you're sitting down with the seller, if you're not knowing when they're going to list or sell, obviously this is something that's coming right around the corner. If this is July or August and you're putting a property up in May or June, chances are you're going to head into this, especially on maybe some first-time buyer homes. So as you're going and speaking with sellers, you're going to want to kind of go over this stuff and say, hey, listen, if this is what you're doing and you only want to co-broke out like 1.5%, we may have buyer agents in July or August that have buyer agency agreements that are 2% or 2.5%. They may come to us asking for more commission. I understand, Mr. Seller, that you have the right to co-broke 1.5%, but we may run into some scenarios where agents are submitting offers with a higher commission, and then we have to make a decision. Is this offer worth doing an extra percentage? Because again, these people, they cannot pay out of pocket for their buyer agent commission. And again, this may change. So this, when it comes to July, this could be a completely different explanation. But as you're speaking with sellers right now that may not be ready to list, or maybe they have questions about this, that would be my advice as to how to answer it. I don't know if Tom.
Well, it's obviously it's very confusing, guys. I mean, and we're going to be guiding you guys through this as we get updates, but to provide just another layer to the concession aspect, you can't obviously have on the MLS, like Justin's talking about, saying, hey guys, here's a $15,000 concession. This is for buyer compensation. You can't do that. You can have a concession on there saying sellers offering concessions. Okay. Now, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously most of these loans, you can't use a concession to pay commission, right?
Correct.
Okay. So as what Justin's talking about, let's say you have a scenario that the seller's offering a concession. Let's say it's 15 grand. Now the seller, you write the contract for the 15 grand concession. Now, since the closing costs are covered and you have a buyer agency agreement with the buyer, now the buyer can pay your commission because the closing costs are covered. So you're kind of working around. The only one that you can't do this on, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, obviously you can't do it on VA. VA does not allow the buyer to pay any commission whatsoever FHA, does FHA have those rules or just VA?
Well, it's VA, and then it's different on FHA, as far as I know, and conventional. But you're right. You're taking a pool of money from the buyer, and you're saying, listen, this is covered, so that frees up more money to pay for the commission, and
Right.
in no way, shape, or form. And there's talk that maybe Fannie and Freddie may change things, and maybe VA. I meant, but anytime you're allowing the buyer to have more capital, more money available, it's going to free up for everything. Obviously for the commission and anything else that may pop up that they may want to do to the house or any other fees that may happen. So, but yeah, no, the rules about the concession being used for a commission is like a complete no-no. But we all know that if you are negotiating on behalf of your buyer a concession for closing costs, you're freeing up a pool of money that they have now to obviously pay for the realtor.
Right.
Yeah. So Walt had the question: can you negotiate with listing agents over commissions? Yes, we can always negotiate. Commissions is always negotiable. Go by that, and that will always be your answer. Do they have the right to say no? Absolutely. They could say nope. We're co-broking this. I have offers. I don't need your offer. But I mean, what listing agent would tell you not to present your offer? Present all offers.
Right.
I don't, whatever. You want 5%? All right. Well, show me a cash deal that's, 4% over market, and then we can talk. Again, it comes down to what is my seller's net? That's really all I care about. And is this the best deal for them? Is this deal strong? Is it contingent? We have to evaluate all the other terms. So yeah, the commission's always going to be negotiable, even on the buy side. So, feel free if for some reason they're not cooperating, and even now, let's just say they have a point or a point and a half. Again, even on like our new construction, our builder's a point and a half on some of his stuff. If you want to come in and do 2%, all right, just make an offer that nets him more money. We're not going to tell you no. We're just going to tell you that this is what he wanted to co-broke at. All I can do is tell you that. And if you come in with an offer that's higher and you can sell your services to your client and they see the value of what you're doing and what you sold, and you can pitch them for 2 to 2.5% and get an extra percentage more. I mean, listen, it's negotiable. 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen. The market's hot. So, it's just not the market where you have that strength, as a buyer's agent, like you did, maybe back in 2012, 2013, to try to do like a short sale deal and, negotiate with the agent to get a higher commission,
Just to step in real quick on that line, can you negotiate with listing agents over commission? I'm reading it like that too, just in case anyone's thinking that you can go and make an offer saying that the listing agent has to accept less. You can't do that. That's unethical. Just so you know, you can't, as a buyer agent, say,
right,
the listing agent agrees to lower their commission this much. Just to make sure we're clear on that. But yes, if your buyer agency commission says 2.5, your agreement says 2.5, and they're offering 2%. You can up it to 2.5 on the offer and see if they'll cover it. That way, nothing has to come from the buyer. But so I just wanted to throw that in there. Well, someone also wrote, "Can you put a minimum of 2%?" Does that mean on the buyer agency agreement? I guess they're saying you do have to spell it out exactly. So,
yeah, no. The answer to that is you can't put a minimum of anything. You can put a maximum. That's it. I mean, do you put a minimum on a listing agreement? Like, look at this again as a listing agreement. Your commission is your commission, right? You negotiate down. You don't negotiate up on a listing agreement. If you negotiate, right? So the default will be look at this always as a listing agreement opportunity. As the buyer agency agreements are going to be done. Think of it like that, right? Think about, I'm doing a presentation or a consultation with the client. I'm seeing if it's a good fit. Right? That doesn't mean you have to approve everybody that you come across that calls in to actually go into a buyer agency agreement with them. You can kind of pick and choose who you want to work with. What you're doing is obviously you're funneling it down to work with the best buyers that fit the best with you and fit with your schedule and fit with your time. And until you actually have a consultation, you're not going to know the answer to that. If everybody called every lead in their CRM and had this conversation, right, there might be only 10% of the people that are willing to actually have a consultation with you. Okay, great. You just brought yourself into the funnel where I know I'm spending the majority of my time with you now. Whether it's following up or explaining it or making sure it's correct. And the expectation shouldn't be that if I do a consultation with this person, that that first appointment that they're going to sign automatically. Now assume that they may go and now have a hurdle thrown in front of them, which is signing off on a document that says, I'm paying you 2.5% when I don't know you. Will they now say, oh, well, let me interview some other agents to make sure that I can't get a better deal? Again, that's the spirit of what's happening right now, is the ability for buyers to not perceive this as a free service, but show value to it. And with that, you guys are going to have to show your value, So if you're got a buyer that calls in about a house in Rumson, right? And now they're going to ask you before they sign off on a 2%, deal of multi-million-dollar properties. What have you sold here before? What's your experience in Rumson? Oh, you don't have experience in Rumson. Well, maybe if I'm going to agree to, signing off on a document where I'm going to pay somebody 2% of the commission, right? Because now they actually have some control here, because we're saying you need to sign this buyer agency agreement. So now it's going to come down to, well, what else are you going to be able to pitch to overcome that? I'm not saying that you can overcome it. I'm just saying you better be prepared that they're going to throw every hurdle at you to not sign that agreement. So whether it be location, experience, the brand of your company, these are all things that are going to be much more important than they were as a buyer agent than ever before. The amount of listings that you have in a market territory, the amount of name recognition that your brand has in a market territory. If you have a company that you've never heard of, and an agent that really is new, right? Like, as a buyer, are you really going to just sign off with that person, to agree to pay them now 2.5%? My budget's $400,000. I'm going to pay 2.5%. I'm going to do the math and say, this buyer, I'm going to pay them $10,000. Are they worth $10,000? So put yourself in the buyer's shoes, and make sure that, you're able to convey your messaging. I highly recommend you guys start doing some videos, showing what your services are and showing what you do. Now more than ever, again, this becomes a listing agent mindset shifting to a buyer. And I know people say, I don't want to deal with buyers and this and that. Well, you will want to deal with buyers when they're your seller, right? And you will want to deal with buyers when it's friends and family and close. You still have to get the buyer agency agreement signed by them. So you still will have to sell yourself a little bit more to get them to sign something that maybe they didn't sign in the past. They'll say, oh, what is this? Oh, well, they changed the law. And, this is just kind of how we operate. And this is going to be my commission on the buy side, but we're going to try to negotiate. You still have to have this conversation, So now, again, you're creating all these questions, and you're going to have, multiple answers to respond with as far as why you're still the best person, to represent that buyer. Some quick thoughts on just different things that I can see, changing. Number one, obviously, we've said buyer agency agreement should be signed before you make an offer. There's nothing that I see that is a mechanism that requires an agent to submit a buyer agency agreement before showing a property, right? Just like as in CIS is supposed to be required. We know that a lot of, probably the majority still don't do the CIS until you're actually writing a contract. So is that kind of looked at as the same way, where you can still gain access to a property without having it signed? We don't know what the MLS mechanisms are going to be to actually prove that. And will listing agents actually require that before showing? And if they do, that's going to be something where, how are you going to organize that? Who's who, what's what? Does this buyer, did they come see my property twice with like different agents and different signatures on different buyer agency agreements? Open houses, we've talked about that. Is that going to be a requirement? How could it be? They didn't even walk through the door yet. You're going to wait outside for everybody to walk through the door and make them sign a buyer agency agreement with you? It's not possible. It's not going to happen. So I see a world where, open houses are going to be a tool, for you guys. To meet more buyers, to show, improve that you're a great agent in that area, and that you could be of service to them and of value to them. And that could be, something where I think maybe you plan on doing open houses. You sell the seller on doing open houses for that reason. We know there's a lot of unrepresented buyers out there. Again, if it's 20 to 30% of the buyers are unrepresented, why do you want them just going to a random, agent? Eventually and coming through now with a new agent negotiating against us. I'm going to do an open house. Maybe I could get both sides. Maybe I can get a discount for you if I do both sides. These are all things that are going to be part of your conversation. Do we look at doing open houses, during the week, when a listing launches? Again, if you're expecting a house to hit the market and a buyer to just say, because it's happened sometimes, buyer just sees a house and they're like, oh my God, that's the area, that's the market. I've been waiting for something to pop up in that area. They've been looking for years, and now they have to go through this process where they have to find an agent, they have to do a consultation, they have to sign a buyer agency agreement. Well, I guess the way around that could be if you do a weekday and a weekend open house, those could be opportunities where that buyer can just walk in the door. You've now released the hurdle and overcome the barrier of going through this process of signing a buyer agency agreement with a random person that has nothing to do with your listing, because our leads will still be sold. I think, one benefit to this is that there should be less leads moving forward in the future. And I think the theory is, the same lead gets sold like 30 times, throughout the course of them actually buying. So this is a good thing too, because if a buyer has a buyer agency agreement signed and you've talked to them about the process, you're obviously going to tell them, don't go inquiring on other websites, to use me to show you a house, right? Or to get information. You're going to have conversations with them. So I think we're going to live in a world where there's going to be less uninterested buyers or buyers that, really aren't serious, submitting inquiries, because obviously what's going to happen when they submit this inquiry, they're going to get you on the line. You're going to conversate with them and tell them, how it works on the buyer agency agreement. I think you're going to see these big websites like Zillow and Realtor.com and Homes.com do a much better job describing, what their buyer agents are going to do for you. And there should be something that you click saying, do you have a buyer agency agreement signed already with another agent? And if you're trying to just get information, there should be some sort of mechanisms created. We don't know what they're going to be, but I think at the end of the day, there will be less leads, moving forward. How Zillow, changes things on their end, not in our control, but I guarantee that they're going to have education, for their agents in the Zillow Flex programs to help overcome, these objections and to help get these buyer agency agreements signed. And what happens now when they walk through your open house, right? They're no longer free agents. You're not going to be able to just, be an all-star and convince that person, because they have a buyer agency agreement signed with anybody or with somebody already, who maybe they don't show up. Maybe they don't do a good job with that person. Well, they still have a signed agreement. It's like a listing agent, right? If you have a signed agreement, it doesn't matter how bad of a listing agent you are. You're still protected. You still have your agreement in place. So, keep those things in mind, as you're talking with people now, because I think this is the time where we practice and we try to do these consultations, and we're going to try to get these buyer agency agreements signed. Because again, your buyers today, your buyers you're talking to today, they may not buy for 6 months or a year, and if you just let them go and you don't have anything signed, the chances are, again, they're going to submit an inquiry somewhere else in 3 months when it's mandatory. Somebody's going to pitch them how it works. You didn't do it, because you weren't required to do it right now. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to sign a buyer agency agreement with somebody else. You're going to call them and follow up, and you're going to say, yeah, I'm just following up. I know you said you're going to buy in 6 months. Oh, yeah, no, we signed something with somebody else already. You lost that opportunity. You can no longer, get that buyer because they've already signed something. Now you're going to hope that maybe you can get them out of the deal. Chances are that's not going to happen. When a buyer signs, they're going to be, most part committed. And so with that, keep in mind, if you're signing up buyers, have backup plans, have a backup agent available, have some kind of agreement with an agent in the office, where if you're not available, you're on vacation, you're booked solid, you can't do it. We do have Erin Fraser in the office who is available for showings. Her rate is $50 an hour. So she can handle, showings, but, that's only if you've already met with the person or have a buyer agency agreement signed. She's not going to handle like your first showing on somebody and try to win that client or lock that client down for you. Keep in mind too, when you're doing these consultations, transaction coordinators, that's going to be a service that I find that, buyers are going to love, because you're going to explain, what they do throughout the process. Yeah, I have a transaction coordinator. They're almost like my paralegal. They're going to make sure that, you're getting your deposits in, you're following the times for appraisals and inspections and reports, and they're going to chase the attorneys and do all this stuff. That's a differentiator in this market because not every buyer agent has that. And they're going to say, well, how much does this cost me? Well, it doesn't cost you anything. It's coming out of my commission. I pay for them. They're in-house, they're local, and they're experts. And that's one thing where if you're not an expert, maybe in Hazlitt, New Jersey, you don't know how the township works or anything. Well, guess what? I have somebody that's a transaction coordinator that knows how to deal with the township when it comes to CO. So there's nothing to worry about. You can buy wherever you want. I have a transaction coordinator. That's all they do all day. They deal with, probably 300, 400 transactions every single year. They're experts in every single market. So I got you covered. So now if they go and interview somebody else, what are the odds that they're going to have a transaction coordinator? I'd say probably 20%, of agents actually have that. And they're usually the top agents, which aren't even working with buyers for the most part. So, your service is here, marketing and advertising. Are you now getting a buyer agency agreement, with a buyer and able to take that and market and advertise? I'd feel stronger sending out a letter, a postcard to a market knowing, hey, we've narrowed it down. My buyer wants to buy in this exact community. I know exactly what they're looking for. I'll do a mailer or a video or something else if I know they're assigned with me, because I know I'm protected. I'm going to do this marketing for them. I'm going to bring them an opportunity. And maybe if you're not even double siding that deal, you're at least getting 2.5%, from the buyer. So these are all things that if you start preparing, for what's coming, and again, these are not new concepts. Just think of it as a listing. If you think of it and see what is everybody doing for listings, it's going to be very close to what people are going to be doing for buyers, and it's really just communicating and marketing and advertising. But I have an agreement. I have something confirmed. I know I'm protected. Very important. I think it's going to be a game changer, for us moving forward, as a brand, as a company. Just think of it this way. Again, we are on the front lines when this actually happened, moving forward with new agents trying to get into this market. Think about all the hurdles they're going to face. They've never done a regular deal before. Now add this in. The buyers, obviously, we tell new agents all the time, easiest thing to do to get into business, work with renters, work with buyers. No longer is that going to be easy. I don't think we're taking on any new agents coming through the rest of this year, not with what's coming down the line, because it just got harder. How is a new agent going to be able to pitch their services to get somebody to sign an agreement to pay them 2.5%? You better be part of a big team. You better be under a big agent that can co-sign for you and that can be in that consultation, with you, and that can, help you walk through these transactions. Because you're again now signing something. A buyer's going to sign something saying, I'm committing $10,000 to this agent, and you've never done a deal before. Buyers have never looked at that before in that way. They just looked at it like, this guy's just opening the doors for me. We all know, as experienced agents, we're way more than door openers, right? That's like 5 to 10% of the actual deal, but that's their perception of what we do. And now you're going to have to fill in the gaps, and as a newer agent, good luck. As an agent that's not doing business, good luck. And what's going to happen? We're going to see less agents in the industry, which is something that we've been calling for a long time. We don't need all these agents coming into the market. We want professionals. We want people with experience. There's room for people, right? But it just got harder. So we're probably going to lose some agents, which is a good thing. And guess what? That means more transactions that are available, for the experienced agents that are going to treat this like a business, that are going to go about this the right way, that are going to be professional, that are going to market and advertise, for their buyers and represent them in the best way, going forward. So I think that's all I got. I mean, if anybody wants to jump in, feel free to ask some questions, guys, and we'll go around the room and see if anybody has any closing thoughts. You want to start, Abe?
I mean, Bo, you nailed a lot of points, which is great. I mean, we're kind of, again, planning for you guys. We don't know what's going to happen, but we kind of feel confident that it's going to lean in a certain trajectory. But here's the one thing that we're not going to see a shortage of, guys. We're not going to see a shortage of buyers. Okay. I mean, just based on the projected amount of buyers that are going to be entering the marketplace over the next 5 years. I mean, there's 45 million that are going to be entering the marketplace over the next 5 years. And there's only about 5 to 6 million homes that sell every year. There's 200 million plus leads that are sold to agents every year. And there's only 5 to 6 million homes that are sold every year. So, I'm actually excited about the buyer agency agreement. The days of having a buyer, call you up and just being like, hey, I want to see this home today at 2:00. And, if you don't run out and show it, they're going to call the next agent. No one's going to do that. Everyone, it's going to be mandated about the buyer agency agreement. You're going to be able to offer a value proposition to them. Okay. And this is the type of skill that, like Justin was talking about. You're going to have to look at this as a listing presentation. You guys are going to have to do some analytics on the town that they're looking at. What's selling? What's the absorption rate? Where the trajectory of the price is going? Some of the houses that they're looking at. Has there been any, recent developments in the town, that they're going to be planning an assisted living near a certain block that they're looking at, or low income housing, or whatever. You got to be able to provide this information to them. Is it near an airport zone? Is there a landfill nearby? This is the type of stuff you guys are going to have to do some research on and provide this value to the buyers. This is where your value comes in. And, it's not just, opening the door and pointing out all this. It's also providing education about the town. So I'm excited, guys, about the buyer agency agreement. You guys should be excited about it because it's going to be leveling the playing field across the board. It's going to be mandated. A lot of great ideas about open houses. That's going to be the one nuance that the buyers are going to be able to avoid it and they come through the open houses. But regardless, if they want to do something after they come through the open house, they're going to have to sign it. So I think it's going to be a great thing for the industry. We've been talking about it for a long time. The fact that it's being mandated is just going to make it stronger in use. So don't look at this as a downplay, guys. Look at this as this is going to really put you guys in a great position to know, okay, these are the buyers that are committed to me. These are the buyers that I'm committed to. You're not wasting your time running around for the buyers that are working with 4 different agents. I mean, we've all dealt with it, guys. You have that $1 million client that you want to lock down a deal, but you know that they're working with 5 other agents. Why are we wasting our time with them? So exciting things down the road. Obviously, we're going to have to navigate the commissions, but I think overall you're going to see most listing brokers offering compensation, and it's just a matter of how it's going to be displayed. So, Tommy, any thoughts?
Over the next few weeks, guys, up to probably a month and a half or so, we're going to have some great strategy sessions on Thursday just to go over, obviously, this topic. We already talked about having Scott Einbinder in. It looks like we're booked for April 4th, right, next Thursday. So he'll be in at 10 a.m. to go over this settlement a little bit more in depth. Just chatting with him a little bit. He knew more about the settlement than I did by far because he was following it every single day. So
you actually talked to the attorney.
Even talked to the prosecuting attorney. pretty valuable. So he's going to be in this Thursday. We're going over probably foreclosures and some bankruptcy because we had this scheduled, and I want to let you guys know what the status is of it. But then the following week we'll do, and we tried to do this last Thursday, but it was so good that what Kathy and Bill were giving that we had to pass this over. But the structure of a bio consultation and really, Bo, what you were talking about, like providing value right then and there, what you're going to do for them, sending out letters, sending out videos, trying to find off the market listings. Also, this is when you can explain to them what your game plan is for a bidding war. What's your game plan to make your offers look better? What kind of tools and secrets do you do? That way you're not trying to explain it to them over the phone. You're in person with them talking about this stuff. So you're there in a consultation, shining the light on what you do as an agent and how you get through certain things, how you make inspection credit requests, how you word it, how much stuff you put in there versus what you get back. So we really are going to go over this a lot. And I think you guys are going to like it even more than a listing appointment because, listing appointments are so heavy on specific comps and values and all that. This is going to be the process. A lot of explanation about the process because right now the homes are the unknown. You don't know exactly what homes you're going to get into. Meanwhile, the listing, the properties and the comps are the known. So I think this will be more, streamlined because you're not going to have to change it every single presentation. You will have to go market data like we're talking about, Abe. But definitely tune in for that, guys, because it's going to give you a lot more confidence to sit down with a buyer and kind of lock them up. So that'll be, as of now, probably April 11th, but we'll get you the timeline for that.
Yeah, guys, definitely watch back that Thursday session. The one thing that I took from that was that buyer agency agreement is just, it's the way that people do business. It doesn't change the cooperation or anything. But Kathy nailed it. I mean, it's more professional out there. There's more respect for realtors in South Carolina because they understand what you do, because it's being communicated, because you're having a conversation that leads to something being signed. So they respect, the services of an agent much more than they do here, because they don't value our time, because we don't communicate how it even works. We just show up and we show the house. And then, when you're signing a contract is when you're communicating how everything works. But you already went through half of the process. They never understood it. And if they, happen to see another house, shiny object syndrome, or went to an open house, could have lost them, because you never really explained it.
Yeah.
Josh,
Sorry, go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, now it's going to throw it to Josh, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Josh, I'll cut you off. But just an example. I mean, I know one of our agents was talking about how he got some feedback from his seller that he went through the property with the seller, looked over everything, said, "Oh, this furnace is getting a little old. You might want to do this or have this checked out," and went through the whole house. Meanwhile, another agent came out, never even got up from the dining room table and went over his presentation. So, and the seller was so floored by that agent. It just shows you guys how much knowledge you can have and how much you think, oh, well, maybe I'm a pretty decent agent. Meanwhile, there's such crap out there. Some agents just don't know what they're doing. They don't think about the product itself. And you guys are professionals here. So I'm excited about how we can really take 50% of your business and show off. It used to just be on the list side. Now, because we have buyers running around with agents that had no value for their time. It was, why are they going to buy the cow when they're giving away the milk for free? I can call someone and see a house in no time. Meanwhile, now it's just going to be a little more structured. So, sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's all good. I just, just witnessing the information, and digesting the information that you're putting out there is absolutely amazing. Back in the day, we did buyer consultations, years and years ago. It was how to create buyer loyalty, and one of the things that came to me, which is real important when you're dealing with, at least when you're dealing with investors, but really anybody out there, is you make money because everybody, that's the word everybody has in the back of their mind. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. And it is. And you make your money when you buy a home. You realize it when you sell it, but you make it on the buy. And and I don't think anybody would dispute the number one, or one of the number one traits of having a good quality buyer's agent is contract negotiation. So it's not something that you want to skip on and just use any other agent. So, just to piggyback on what you guys said, I mean, I think this lawsuit absolutely has raised the bar, certainly has raised the barrier of entry to becoming an agent with a quality office, with a quality brand, with the services that you guys offer. But it really has raised the profile of a realtor today. And couldn't say this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or maybe even 6 months ago. But now, absolutely, the game has changed. And for those that are looking to really establish themselves and make a name for themselves in this new world, it's a great time to do that. And I'm certainly here to help support anyone that's looking to raise their game in this area.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Abe, you want to say something?
No, I was just going to touch on the comments. Like that, hire dedicated buyer agent. Revolution has the best. That, GD.
There's going to be marketing geared towards buyers, guys, and again, I think it's going to be a lot of Zillow and Realtor and Homes. They're going to have to get creative on how they're marketing to get buyers. So we're also going to be competing, with these companies. So again, having your social set up, having your reviews, right now, go heavy into reviews, get them all done, because I think that's one huge thing that a buyer can now look at and say, oh my God, this person has all these reviews. Yeah, no, you look solid. Anthony made a comment a little off topic. Will the brick location have a conference room or a room where we'll be able to hold buyer consults in? And absolutely. And it's going to be another, stunning office. We bring in nothing but the best. I can tell you this, there's a lot of these virtual brokerages that are now at a huge disadvantage, because now imagine these buyer consults and now, right? Oh, you got to do it on Zoom. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I met with this other agent and, they did their consult in the office and they're local and this and that. And then imagine too, going through this whole entire, thing now where your broker is in Montclair and they don't know the specific markets. I'm already getting calls from some of these agents. They're freaking out because they're at a disadvantage in multiple ways. Their company doesn't have a lot of listings. They don't have brand recognition. They don't have a local office. They don't have a local broker. So these are the people that you're going to be going up against, guys, and you're going to be able to pitch against those things. Because again, you want me to sign a $10,000 agreement. Where's your office? It's in Montclair. That's weird. So you don't have an office? No, I don't have an office, but I live here. Okay, so where can we meet? We meet in a coffee shop. I mean, come on, guys. This is for us. This is going to be a great thing. For Keller Williams. Same thing. They're local. They don't have the brand recognition though. So if you look at just worldwide brand recognition, guess who's number one? Guess who's also in the top 10 for real estate websites? It's Remax. So there's some great things, some great advantages that I think are going to fall back in our corner now. We're going to be able to really, benefit off this much more than a lot of these, newer operations, companies that people never heard of. Those agents right now are scared, because they just assume that maybe we're not going to cooperate with them, and they don't have listings, and they're just very buyer heavy, and all they do is buyers. So now they have to do all these agency agreements with buyers, but they don't have listings. So keep that in mind, right? If I'm a buyer and I'm going to sign with somebody and you guys don't have listings, why am I going to sign with you? I'm going to think I'm going to sign with somebody, that has listings in the area. Like, why? Never heard of your company before. So these are all things that you guys can use to your advantage as you're having conversations with people. Use the fact that, Remax is number one in regards to a brand of company with listings, and how can you use that to your advantage? Well, these are agents that I work with all day. They're professional. They're doing more deals. And, if you're up against another agent, chances are, Remax agent to Remax agent, the success rate's going to be, a lot better. I'm going to put you in the best position. What are they going to say? Oh, no, I'd rather have, this other company that's virtual, negotiating with, a Remax agent. All these things that, are going to come into play that were never discussed before that, again, lead to you having an advantage in this market.
Absolutely. And Anthony, just so you're aware, I just want to make sure this is clear. We have conference rooms in all the offices. So you guys can reserve in any office, Spring Lake, even the new Wall office, Lavalette. There's all smart tech. You can hook up to a TV to present. That's in all the locations, and obviously Brick is going to be a big office, and we'll have a nice size conference room there. But anywhere there's an office and you guys want to reserve and you have a consultation, just reach out and we'll get it locked in for you guys.
Yeah. Another tip: maybe have your mortgage broker in on that first appointment too.
Just gonna say that, dude. Just gonna say
me too. Damn. Tommy had one good thing and I stole it.
Tell me Josh wouldn't want to shake hands with a buyer. It's your lender would love to do that. So
yeah, you can make that your requirement. If they haven't been pre-approved, just say, all right, cool. No, this is a good opportunity. You can meet part of my team. I have a team. I have an attorney. I have a title company. I have a mortgage guy. I've got everything in place. I've got the home inspector. Again, all these things that are built into your process and why they're going to go with you. And, let's just meet with the mortgage broker and we'll go over it. You don't have to sign anything. You don't have to give them financials. You don't have to do anything. Let's just make sure this is a good match. We'll make sense of it, right? We'll sit down. We'll go over with a mortgage calculator. You can kind of give me hypotheticals of what you do. We don't have to run anything. We don't have to run credit that day, but if I'm going to do a home search and we're going to make sure that this makes sense, and if it doesn't make sense to you, then let's not sign this agreement and waste our time. If you're looking for a $300,000 house, with a budget where you can only afford $250, and you want something for $400, right? That math doesn't work. Like, why am I going to actually waste time, sitting down or going to show houses with you? Maybe I'll take the time to educate you and we can have this conversation and, maybe you could be a lead for the future, because I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to get to that point where you need to go, and again, it's bringing value. So
it's a very important about the mortgage part, because if it's my understanding, again, very new, everything's proposed, but if your commission is 10,000 or 2 points, if they don't have, when those documents are provided to your loan officer, the underwriter is going to be looking at the cash to close to incorporate the buyer agency fee. So, again, the barrier of entry in the bar to be top realtor has never been higher, especially from the buyer side, because it's important that these buyers are pre-approved and that they're real, that they have the means, because not only going to pay for down payment and closing costs, but obviously buyer agent commission as well. So all the more reason to involve different partners, like you said, in these different services of the office.
Absolutely, guys. So
Okay.
first, not first of many, but this is obviously we're gonna keep holding these guys and keep holding trainings, and just all I could say is get in front of this, be part of them, take advantage of the free designations that the board's offering, and start studying up so you guys can really crush it when you need to offer the value proposition, because it's coming, and we want you guys to be prepared.
We're going to throw a Dropbox link also that has the NAR settlement. I actually have the NAR highlights too, if you just want to kind of breeze through what I showed up on the screen before. But you get familiar with it, read through it, understand the language, let it spark some questions in your mind. Let yourself get imaginative as far as how you can use this to, maybe be a better agent, or communicate better, with buyers or sellers. You are going to have to communicate this again with sellers as well. This is going to come up. This should be incorporated into your presentation, because if you're not talking about it and somebody else goes through the door and talks about it, and they say, why didn't the other guy tell me about this? I don't know. I mean, this is something that's major, and it may change. Whether it's going to affect them today because they're going to sell the house before that happens, doesn't matter. It's providing the information. I wouldn't hide this information from a seller. I'd bring it up. If they don't want to talk about it, fine. I mean, you're going to find that many people, they don't understand it anyway. So I would just bring it up, and that way you check the box, right? I brought it up, and that way if another agent walks through the door, they're not going to say, well, why didn't, Tom tell me about this? I feel like he's hiding things from me now, and now I'm not going to list with him. So Tom would never do that because he's an amazing broker. So. All right, guys. That's all we got for you today. If you guys have any suggestions or anything that you want us to chat about for next week, let us know. I know we were thinking about maybe doing like a buyer consultation kind of walkthrough, maybe an example to do that. I know Wade do. He's been getting buyer agency agreements signed for some time, so he's a little ahead of the curve here in New Jersey. So we're probably going to have him jump on and help us out with that. And we're gonna nail this, guys. We're gonna be ready for this. If you see anything interesting, out in the media that you have a question about, feel free, send it to us. I love talking about this stuff. I'm very, very into it. I'm watching a ton of the videos that are out there in the world. Again, some of it is, nonsense, some of it's good information. But yeah, we're going to work as hard as we can, as your brokers and owners to get to the bottom of everything and have a strategy moving forward. So, all right, guys.
All right, y'all. See you on Thursday.
See ya.